and welcome to this leader at a company called Momentous. I've been working in fandom for nearly 20 years now. I'll be your host today. You might remember me from such things as running social media for TV and film at Netflix or Fox, working on projects for Marvel, Mattel, the Kardashians, and fandoms of many flavors and sizes and colors. I'm here today to talk a lot about this. I've had a lot of positive experiences in fandom, and fandom has done a lot of good over the time that I've been part of it. My tenure also, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but I was vice president of a company called Gish, or Gishwez, a global scavenger hunt in over 110 countries, created by actor Misha Collins from Supernatural fame. Gish was a beautiful era on the internet, and we set out to gamify doing good around the world. We mobilized Supernatural fandom, and we raised millions of dollars all through the power of fandom itself. So I'm very excited to talk to our guests today about the positivity in fandom, what it means to them, and what we can do. So we're here to talk about positive experiences and solutions to a stressful world, and our experiences in fandom and how we can lift each other up within our fandom communities. We are not here to rehash what we all know can and has happened in toxic fandoms. That's a known experience and we've learned from it. Additionally, I want to set the stage here. There will be no tolerance of any hate speech in our comments, nor personal commentary and judgment of fans in our chat or our guests. If our moderators deem your behavior to be in violation of these guidelines, you will be dismissed from the live chat and sent down in your hell pod back to Super Earth, so bye-bye. We thank you all in advance for your compassion and empathy and patience with our panelists and with each other, and I'm just looking forward to it. So we're going to be covering a few different topics here about mental health and fandom, and I'm really excited to talk to our guests here. Our personal connections to fandom, where are we spending our time, and what does the future of fandom and mental health look like? So we'll also be sharing some really important resources, so stay tuned for that. But I want to start off our introductions with Dr. Janina Scarlet. She is a licensed psychologist, author, TEDx speaker, and a creativity coach, a Ukrainian-born refugee. She also survived Chernobyl radiation and persecution. You immigrated to the United States, Janina, at the age of 12 with your family, and inspired by X-Men, developed superhero therapy to help patients with anxiety and depression and PTSD. And so let's welcome Janina. Hello, Dr. Janina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Charlie. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. We've met a couple of times at various cons over the years, and I've always loved your panels. But we'd love to share your work with everybody. Would you mind telling us about what you do and what you're about?
Absolutely. So, as a licensed clinical psychologist, I specialize in working with folks with PTSD, talking about what happened to them, because for many of us, we don't have the vocabulary to explain our experiences. But it might be so much easier to talk about fandom, to talk about a particular character who went through something painful and point to that character and say, I feel what that character has been through. So I often incorporate fandom into my work as a way to support folks with finding a positive role model for themselves and creating a roadmap for helping individuals to become their own hero in real life.
I love it. I love it. It's so cool because you're also helping people develop working with their backstory to create themselves as these like heroes in their stories. It's so cool. This is a great entry point into our discussion today. I think it's important for all of us to sort of talk about how we're here, just as you've arrived here at these topics and mental health. So I'd like to go around now and have each of our guests introduce themselves and give us a little bit of their superhero backstory about you. So we'll start with you, SG.
Thank you, Charlie. My name is SG Blaise. I grew up in a land of castles, monarchies, and fallen dictatorships, also known as Hungary. During the second half of Soviet oppression, where my childhood mostly played out, Hollywood movies were largely forbidden. But my dad smuggled them in anyway, not for profit, but to show the magic inherent to his children's. And these movies, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, had such great influence that I can thank them for the sci-fi author I am today, and also saved my mental health during quite difficult times as well.
Thank you, SG. And your Last Lemonade series is stunning and just a fastly growing fandom. So we're very esteemed to have you here today. Christina, the one that I've internet stalked you forever. You're my hero. You're the coolest. It's so nice to meet you in person, sort of.
Honestly, same. I am a Tumblr girly to my core. And so, as a super Hulak girl, this is actually quite the honor. I'd like had a friend who did Gishwas every year, and it was just even the idea of it and seeing people participate and come together all around the country just spurned out of this love for these fandoms. And I'm a pop culture host. I started as a cosplayer and I moved here. I moved from Columbus, Georgia. I didn't really know I was selling cars and I was bartending, and I just decided I wanted to kind of see what would happen next. And I moved to LA in 2014. And since I've been here, I moved here with just my books, my clothes, and my costumes and my comic books.
That's all
Pretty
you
much
need,
what I
really.
had. And I didn't really know what I wanted to pursue, but I got here and fell into a deeper world of fandom. I started going to comic book stores with my grandpa Jack when I was younger. He actually served on the NCC-1701 in like the actual Enterprise in the Navy. And so he got to watch the premiere of Star Trek on the Enterprise. And it was just such a like hearing his stories about it. Then I got into Star Trek and I started to watch it and I saw Nichelle Nichols and I fell in love and just was like, I could do this too. And I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now I get to talk about pop culture. I get to be in the vein of it, and it's one of the most formative things in my entire life has been from reading X-Men as a child and seeing parallels to myself and like maybe I'm a mutant, but I just was weird. And so it all kind of just ultimately worked out and I've been fortunate enough to work for my favorite fandoms. I get to host the official BBC Doctor Who podcast and I hosted Star Wars The High Republic show for StarWars.com, got to host Star Wars Celebration. And as a person who skipped school, I'm sorry, to watch Star Wars and have marathons with my friend Jamel, it is one of the most full circle things because when that was my mental health day in school was I would go and it sometimes it's hard when you have really bad anxiety and you can't go into a cafeteria. So I either went and hid in the library and practiced the teleprompter in our news station or sat with our librarian. And that teleprompter prep really did help me for life. So I appreciate you, Miss Sonia Boyd, for letting me hide in that safe space of the library and to have Star Wars, to have all of these things and Tumblr and my communities there, my online communities. Pretty much, oh yes, I'm also a professional tabletop role player. I've played with Critical Role and Dimension 20, and I have a 311 record on actually mostly on reality television based episodes.
Nice, nice. Well, your voice is so welcome, and so I mean, I love looking for your commentary on the latest stuff because I always appreciate your perspective. So thanks for coming today, and thanks for talking about this with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Wells, we're new to meeting each other. Tell us
Yes,
about who you are and what you're about.
sure. Hi, yeah, my name's Wells Davis. I'm a filmmaker and a podcaster, and a producer. I grew up in fandom in some way, shape, or form ever since I was very young. I've been a Trekkie. I've been into Star Wars, all comic books, everything. But about the time COVID rolled around, I was working on an ambulance as an EMT and was one of the early people to get the vaccine and then immediately got COVID right after. So being stuck in my basement with the OG COVID back in 2021, I decided to do a full rewatch of Stargate SG-1. And while I was sick, because my brain power didn't want to watch anything new. So we were like, let's watch things that we know. That's all I have the capacity for. And I had also just joined TikTok. So I was like, I wonder if there are other people on TikTok that are talking about Stargate. And turns out there were. So I ended up meeting a whole community, Stargate TikTok, hashtag Stargate TikTok on TikTok, and met these two ladies that we ended up forming a Stargate podcast together called Three Fry Short. So we, started talking about episode after episode, started getting a few guests on, and that eventually led me to The Companion, which is an online fandom community website with articles. We do live streams, interviews, things like that, that I manage now. So it's kind of been a pretty crazy journey into fandom through that. And I've had the opportunity now to work with tons of Star Trek and Stargate primarily people, including a mental health project that we've been doing with Amanda Tapping over the last 2 years, which is culminating now in a crowdsourced book that we are in the editing process of right now. So we have all these fan submitted stories about fandom and mental health, the very thing that we're talking about today. And with some contributions from Amanda herself and some other people as well. So we're really excited to get that going and continue this conversation in any way that we possibly can.
I love it. I love it. And the realness of not being able to watch something new and having to watch something you've already watched when you're a little diminished is so real. I've done that so many times. And also another thing that I've heard in what you're saying is, the benefit of finding these fandom communities for yourself and then watching that fandom then blossom into supporting other people and creating resources and communities and safety for other people. That's what we're talking about today. So it's such a cool story. So thanks for sharing.
The evolution has been really, really interesting, and just that this whole journey throughout all of that. And mental health had always been something in EMS too that I was very passionate about. As an EMT, not a full paramedic, I took a lot of mental health calls and wrote a lot of patients in and everything. So being able to intersect those two things and combine them has been really rewarding for me as well.
That's amazing. Well, thank you to everybody for sharing your stories and the deeply personal connections that we have with the fandom. It is a personal thing. It's such a fingerprint for us to choose something that we love and be passionate about it and then share that with other people. I'm sure a lot of fans following you all can, find these shared experiences already. But let's dive a bit deeper into fandom and where you can find refuge and community. I'd love for each of you to talk a bit about where you find the best communities for your own mental health, where you go to be with your community or tribe. Is it online? Is it offline? Like, how do you seek that and where do you go? And anybody can take it. Anybody can take it.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
It's been interesting because it kind of almost feels like, well, the TikTok community was the first one that it was probably the first moment in my life of fandom where I really reached out to other people that I didn't know in my geographic vicinity, basically, and actually started talking to people online and actually made online friends, which was just wild to me. It was something I'd never done before. And they've turned into my two co-hosts that it took us probably a year or more to meet in person, actually, for the first time. So I would say online is definitely a huge thing for me. It's how I've created these communities and these spaces for myself. And then also now we have met in person, and now with the companion, we are going to actual conventions and we're having meetups and we're all showing up in our same t-shirts and like it's all that part of the community, but it started online first. And it's been really interesting because not being stuck to your geography or your capability. So not everybody can travel, not everybody can go to these things. Those online spaces have been critical for people that I've met through all of this fandom work.
Yeah, it's interesting with Momentous. What we do is we provide virtual fan experiences and meet and greets. And I think one of the biggest reasons that came for me was trying to democratize the way people experience these things. Some people can't travel. Some people are immunocompromised. By taking away those borders and boundaries and having ways to like meaningfully connect, that's a big thing that I think fandom does really well. You're totally right.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Where y'all going to?
I would love
Christina.
Oh, the SG.
Sorry,
Go
I
for
was
it,
just.
SG. You hit the buzzer. You hit the buzzer real quick. So SG, it goes to SG this time, and then we'll get to you next. Christina.
Thank you, the imaginary buzzer. I had a late start to fandom because when I published my book in 2020 summer, COVID was raging and fandom wasn't quite as easy to approach when the white noise was really big, right? So 2020 to December, I had the chance to go to LA Comic Con for the first time, as an exhibitor. And I was extremely scared. I'm not the type who thrives in big crowds. I struggle with anxiety, and I was scared how this is gonna go and what does that mean and how I'm going to approach this. And what I realized is that not only I had fun, but those who came to my booth left recharged and happier. And it was this amazing feedback loop that we both experienced. And then 2023, I had 7 events. And then 2024, we had 5 events. And each got better and better with people returning and then sharing what they loved in the books. And we had this amazing connection thanks to sci-fi and fantasy that immediately created this little community that we all could find safe place and an amazing connection.
Yeah, and I think, when you go to conventions or you speak or have a booth at these, you have stunning booths, by the way. Like your booth is like next level. Is when you go, you feel like you're in the book. But do you find yourself seeing other people wearing shirts that are sort of emblematic, or seeing other people who you can tell that they're within a certain fandom, and that makes you feel a little bit more at home?
It definitely does. I love watching people dressed up Star Trek, Stargate, Star Wars, and I love that we can immediately engage in conversations. And even if it's just a quick little, I love your costume, or what do you think of the this or that? And it's so fun that this immediate connection that we have that creates this community. And I really, really love it.
It's true. It's true. And that's why we all need to buy the merch and the things and cosplay. Christina, cosplay is a pretty powerful thing. And as a cosplayer, I mean, do you find when someone compliments you on your cosplay that it's sort of a meaningful experience for you too?
I think one of the most important things for me, like be it Dungeons and Dragons, be it cosplay,
Yeah.
is I get to meet little girls that I used to be.
Yeah.
And the number of girls that come up and they're like, I met a girl, I remember at a convention, and she told her dad, she's like, I told you, there's like, I could play Dungeons and Dragons, I could do this. And it was just something about how excited she got and how into it. And it was just such a reminder that we need like to see ourselves. That representation is so important. I needed that representation, and now I get to be that representation for other people. And I think the place that I've truly found a sanctuary has been in role-playing games. Like there's something about being able to be the truest form of yourself while being someone else. And I remember especially during 2020, pardon me, had just lost my dad, was having a lot of big feelings, and I didn't have anywhere to put those feelings. And Brandon Lee Mulligan approached me and he said, we're going to do a game called Pirates of Leviathan. Whatever you want to do. And I said, I want to create the most joyful character I've ever played in my entire life. I want a character who is full of all of the feelings that I cannot process right now. Like I don't have a place for truly happy. I don't have a place to feel like hopeful. And I was able to create this character who was just like happy and kind and loving and just like everything that I was that was being like blocked by how sad I was. And I left like those 6 sessions of sitting with my friends and playing pretend and feeling so good and so just like I feel like I found myself in that game again.
Yeah.
And it was so hard because I love to make people happy. Like I think my favorite quote in all of fandom is from Doctor Who, and it's from the Christmas Carol episode by Stephen Moffat. It's fantastic. And there's a part where the Scrooge character turns around and he's like, why do you care? I'm not important. And Matt Smith's doctor turns around and in just the most beautiful, calm way says, in 900 years, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before. And through fandom and conventions and people enjoying work I've put into the world and me enjoying the other work, I get to fangirl over people that I've admired for years and years with reckless abandon. It is freeing. And so I've found so much peace through fandom and just having these outlets to exist in a way that I don't get to in the world.
Yeah. And it sounds like by giving yourself that full permission, you're giving others permission as well, which creates a safety and a recognition in themselves. And that's such a beautiful thing, whether it's discovering parts of ourselves by playing those characters or cosplaying or representing or playing in a space that maybe people haven't been represented in. I mean, there's plenty of white guys with beards. I would love to see more of something else as well, because then I get to learn, I get to grow, and you get to give me permission to grow and learn. And that's a power, man. Thank you.
Emotional intelligence is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's like there's so much subversive work too within D&D to be able to teach emotional and sort of cultural appreciation and understanding. Like I've seen people have huge realizations about how to deal with various races within these fantasy realms, and then they go, "Wow, maybe I should do that in my life." Like it's such a wild world, and it's so powerful what it can do. Dr. Janina, what kind of spaces do you go to? Where do you go to find those like-mindedness, the like-mindedness in that sort of community?
I love this question so much. And what I love about what all of my amazing co-panelists already said is that it doesn't seem to matter the type of modality, right, that we participate in as much as the shared experiences, and so for me, it actually started by going to the movies. And so as a kid, I grew up in Ukraine, and my family and I were exposed to Chernobyl radiation. And so I'm still, waiting for my spidey senses, any day now. But coming to the US, I was in middle school, and I was that awkward kid that didn't speak English and didn't know American culture, and I didn't know anything about mental health. And so I felt like a freak. And it wasn't until I started going to the movies more often, and specifically with seeing the first X-Men movie, that I felt that sense of belonging. I remember watching that first X-Men movie in 2000 and just being so blown away by all of these characters, each of which had some kind of a genetic mutation, and being blown away by Storm more than any other character because she is such an amazing character and she can control the weather. And for the first time in my life, instead of feeling like a victim, feeling like a survivor and feeling like I wasn't alone in my experiences. And it was going to the movies and seeing other people's reactions, talking even to strangers next to me, that really shifted something for me. And it was because of that movie that I became a psychologist and went into this work. And now it's, talking at wonderful panels like this one, or going to cons, or talking to my clients on a daily basis about fandoms and talking about mental health themes that I think makes the biggest difference for me as a person and as a mental health professional in creating this experience that we're not alone. Because I think the biggest point of suffering that we all go through is the universal lie of I'm the only one that feels this.
Yeah.
And the beauty of fandom is that we can point to the screen and say, me too, right? We can point to the screen and say, I've been through it too, whether it's grief over losing a loved one, whether it's trauma, whether it's debilitating anxiety that we don't think anyone around us experiences. And when we see other people next to us reacting the same way, that's when those barriers fall off. And that's when we know that we're just like everyone else. That's when we know that universal common humanity, which I think is the most healing message of them all.
I love it. I love it. And it's such a powerful message. I mean, X-Men, I think, is resonating for a lot of us here for good reason. The idea that the things that make us distinct and othered are actually part of our identity, and a positive aspect of our humanity is big, Like you said, feeling alone and different is it's poisonous. It feels like you can't get out of it. You're stuck in this place where you don't belong. And to know that like there could be an entire school of people who are all different in their own ways and all with their unique properties and sort of dangers and risks, but also strengths and character.
Charlie, may I add a little bit of something to this, because what you said resonates so much with me. When my dad passed away, I was almost 13 years old, and I went into 8th grade, and I remember having this feeling of I'm an outsider now. I'm not a kid anymore. Reality came crushing in. Life was raw. I didn't know how to deal with grief. We didn't have a lot of mental health knowledge or grief counseling. I had to go talk to the principal to get the school books, free of charge because we couldn't afford it. And I didn't even get an I'm sorry. It was a stern face and fine. And I remember had to convince myself that school was still important. And when all of these, I'm watching my mom struggle. You know, my dad was the breadwinner. He was the one who took care of a lot of things. So literally, my mom is struggling to find her footing, and she has two almost teenagers. One is a 13, the other one is an 11-year-old boy. And it was tough. And for me, books was the biggest help, and also talking about it with close friends, which was felt hard. But the second we started to do it, and the more we repeated what happened to us, we gained some comfort. We gained, as I think Janina said it, and Well said it too, is that we suddenly weren't that alone. And it was such a powerful feeling that if I can tell anyone, please try to talk to someone.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
important.
Absolutely. And you know what we know about loneliness too is that it's actually an epidemic, right? United States Surgeon General has actually stated that it's a silent epidemic. We know that it's something that impacts our mental and physical health, but how beautiful is it that the healing actually can lie in things like fandom and community?
Yeah, yeah, and what a beautiful thing too that like the stories and movies and TV series, we get a sort of dual action moment, which is we get to feel not so alone in the character journey, and then we get to feel not so alone when we meet other people who are as passionate or in love with these sort of worlds and characters. We get double the amount of sort of cathartic or, de-lonelying of it all. We find that sort of connection, which is really beautiful. Okay, so it sounds like conventions, online communities. I've even gone into hashtags and found people posting cool stuff. That's probably how I found you. Christina's like, oh man, she's so cool. I'm never gonna be cool enough to talk to her, but that's fine. And then we end up chatting, and it's really great. And then Janina, I remember seeing the superhero therapy and going like, oh, this is somebody who's taking fandom to the next step. They're looking for how can we take these things that are so uniquely powerful and how we deal with story and then applying them in a modality where we can actually do some healing, do some work. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And SC, you're just cool. Wells, you're just cool. You guys both have this cool platforms. It's so rad. And also Stargate, please. Like it's never gonna go away. It's never gonna go away.
It's here to stay, for
It's
sure.
here to stay. And I appreciate you keeping the flame lit because we're just never. It's just
Yeah.
such a cool, rich world.
We
have
love to say spoiler alert for a 30-year-old TV show on our podcast.
So-
but it's very true.
It is true. It is true because everybody's discovering it. Like the internet has no time and no space. Like it has infinite shelf space. So anybody could hop, like because of you, will find, hey, this is an entire world that is actually helping me feel like I have more awareness of myself and the world, and I get to go on an adventure. It's so fun. So fun. So what I want to do now is kind of look forward. I feel like we've talked about what we're doing now. Obviously online communities are still alive and kicking. We've got in-person events that have come to rise again, maybe sometimes a little bit differently, maybe sometimes more accessible, hopefully. Not all of them. We want more of that. But then where are we headed? Where do we see the future of fandom? How can we do even more for these communities? I think about with Gish, the question was always each year, how do we go bigger? How do we go deeper? How do we go do more? And it was always with this idea that we need to connect more. And also, in a way, we forced people to connect who had never met before in over 110 countries. We were always trying to find more of that sort of mutual connection. So where do we see this going? How do we do a better job with fandom helping to connect with each other? Are we just going to implant a chip in our brains and we all just have the same thought at the same time? Like, what are we doing here?
Oh, I think that we've already started in the way that we build communities, even like as you said, going into the hashtag and finding people and finding that commonality that brings you together that takes some of the guesswork out of it right there. Oh, look, we have a common interest. You know, they say the most powerful thing is like having a common enemy. It's really not. It's having a common fandom. Because if you meet somebody, like if I met someone who liked One Tree Hill, and they wanted to sit and talk about One Tree Hill for hours upon hours and break down why this happened. Lucas and Peyton, what is Endgame? I would be so happy. There is so much that we can do. Just those conversations I have people that I've started random conversations with. At one point, I was doing this thing where it's like 6 degrees of separation, but it's One Tree Hill, and like what actor was in this that was also in this and how it connects to it, which is actually great because Star Wars has a direct connection to One Tree Hill because Sophia Bush was on Chicago Fire with Charlie Barnett, who was in The Acolyte for Star Wars. So you actually have a direct connection right there. So it's like 1 degree of Star Wars separation from One Tree Hill. So technically it counts in all the fandom ways. There's a couple of more, but I won't do all that. But there's like going forward, what we do is it's more community events. I was looking at pictures from or videos from a convention about 3 weeks ago of a group of people that saw the movie Sinners. And when I tell you people of all shades just outside doing an Irish jig, like in a circle outside. And who would have thought that this movie would like it's a fantastic film, but the idea that people are now like bonding over this and just going and dancing in public.
Oh yeah.
Like we're in a place where joy is so powerful, and it is the thing that it's going to change us all. It's going forward and using radical joy to propel us forward, to find our people, to go to conventions, to have meetups. What's your favorite fandom? I promise you there's some form of a meetup for it at conventions. There's Doctor Who meetups. I remember when we did Star Wars Celebration, I was so excited because I was like, oh, we're going to have a meetup for the High Republic fans. And I love my High Republic babies so much. They make me so happy. My life has been so enriched by just this little world of fandom that I got to talk about and to meet these people who love it so much. And I remember walking up with the authors and we were like, there were like 10 people in costumes and we're like, we got 10 people to come to this meetup in London. This is insane. And the people were like, oh, you guys are here for the meetup. And we're like, yeah, they go, it's down there. And there's hundreds of people in costume. There's someone dressed up like Geode, who is a big rock that drives a ship and is also a pilot. It is fantastic just to see that level of community. And there's people in that group who are now married because they've met through this.
Yeah.
There are people who have lifelong friendships. I met a group that they now travel together. They go to conventions together. They have their own little convention group. A couple of them live together. There's so much possibility and friendship that lies out there. We just have to not be in our own way. You are wanted. You can take up space. You are allowed to exist in these places, and they want you. No matter what anyone tells you, no matter what you may think, even the mean voice in your head, and that girl's rude, you can go out there and find a space. And there is a fandom, a group that is waiting to welcome you with open arms. Heck, go find one of mine because I'll talk to you and we will talk all the time.
I love it. Yeah, I could listen to Black Girl Nerds commentary on Sinners for the rest of my life, for sure. It's the best, the best. I actually want to throw this to Wells because working with the companion app and this book that you're creating, what's that future look like?
I was thinking as Christina was talking, and there's a lot of talk about all the technology, how technology can connect us. But I think I've discovered through this whole process and where it's going that I think people think it's a lot more complicated than it is to forge these connections. It's in my life and me being trying to be as transparent about who I am as a non-binary person and my place in the world, and then also my place within fandom, which I can also credit fandom in a lot of ways for making me comfortable enough to come out in any way. Like that found family has done that for me. But I have people come up and they tell me, oh, thank you for telling me, thank you for being out there, being outspoken or whatever. And I'm like, I really don't feel like I've done anything, So I think we take for granted how simple it is sometimes to just say hi or just be like, I was just at 2 conventions and 2 weekends in a row. They were both Stargate heavy conventions in Europe, and literally just having a place. We set up a WhatsApp group, right? And then anybody that wanted to be in it could be in it. And I went, hey, headquarters is here. Come find me. And then people would just come, like Christina was talking about. They're like, the meetups are there. So yes, it's so exciting about the book that we're doing and potentially how that's going to reach people and hopefully bring even more people into the community that we have. truly, having read all of these stories that people have submitted now, it's everything that we're talking about with connections with characters, with stories, but also with each other. The stories that people have said, acts of kindness from people within the community, as far as helping with pet fees and like vet fees and like anything you can imagine, people have come together in fandom to do that. So I think that's just going to continue. I think the more people that are willing to be open and transparent about struggles and things that they're going through, and making it that step farther into reality versus, you make the connection about a character and then you say, hey, I'm this too, and then somebody goes, okay, I don't feel as scared to admit that myself. That's the future. That's just everybody being less, there being less stigma about everything and everybody understanding that everybody's going through whatever they're going through. To me, that's what it is. That's what the book is. That's what, all these chats are in general. I think it's a lot simpler than a technological solution. I love technology for what it's allowed, the global aspect of the community that we have now. Wonderful. Social media is a double-edged sword for sure, but it has done more good for me than harm in finding these communities at this point. So, but all of that aside, it's just as simple as saying hey and being cool with just talking to people and
Yeah.
connecting.
Yeah, and watching fandom sort of stick up for each other too. I think, I saw a meme recently that was like cringe was invented by big normal to stop people from feeling things, from being passionate about stuff or taking risks. And I fully believe this. And I will fight for another fandom to exist, just as we should be fighting for any community to exist when we're not a part of it, because we want existence rather than like erasure. And we want people to enjoy their lives and be who they are rather than pretend and go down roads of like harm. I think,
Yes.
it's exactly what you're saying. And I love that. It's a really beautiful sentiment. SG, what are your thoughts? Where are we going? You're a sci-fi writer. What are we going to do?
Well, hopefully flying, but that's just a
Okay.
personal preference. I love the human connection, Charlie, and Wells and Christina touched on it too. And I love that when we have a chance to go to these conventions and readers and fans and the audience comes to us, we have this amazing opportunity to share our passion, our love for sci-fi fantasy, for that book series, for that TV show, movie, whatever it is. To share that bond is really powerful. And I noticed as an author, often, fans ask, they want to write a book. They want to write a comic book. Sometimes they 10 years old, sometimes they 45 years old, whatever it is. You see that hesitation, you see that shyness. They don't know where to start. And when I have a chance to engage with them and tell them my story, I didn't think I'm gonna be a writer in English. I was born in Hungary. My road to writing wasn't an A to B, it was an A to Z to D to whatever you can imagine. I had to learn the language, took 10 years, and then I had to learn how to write a book. And when I share this story, I see their eyes go wide and they're like, wow, I can do this. I don't have to learn a language. And then, we share the resources. On my newsletter, you can download PDFs where I have, these are the books that help. These are the workshops, the writers' conferences. And I love sharing this because sometimes the first thing anyone needs to hear is to believe in yourself
Well,
and to be true to yourself.
agreed. And I told you this the last time we had an event that you learning English and then learning to write and then writing a book and then having it be so well received and win awards, I was like, I'm not doing enough. So I appreciate you hooking me up with that. I was like, great, okay. If she's gone the full gamut, and I just maybe have to show up a little bit more, is what I'm saying. But I appreciate it, and I agree with you. Like your experience and you sharing that story too, the sharing where you came from, how your father gave you this love of reading that you didn't have previously, how he brought you pop culture when it was illegal to even access. That is going to give someone else permission to find other people in those communities when they've found the things that they love. So that's where it's at. Yeah. Dr. Janina, what are your thoughts on the future here?
Yeah, I think psychologically and even medically speaking, we're starting to see more and more doctors being aware that social interaction is the biggest predictor of good, not just mental, but also physical health. And in fact, some of the recent research studies are finding that as little as 1 hour a week of meaningful social interaction, which can be virtual, such as attending a panel like this, or getting together with friends over Discord to talk about a favorite fandom, boosts a hormone called oxytocin. Now, I call this hormone a magic solution, basically, like a magic potion, because it has so many wonderful effects on our mental and physical health. Not only is it a self-soothing hormone that reduces anxiety and depression, but also it makes our immune system stronger. It strengthens our cardiovascular health, so it makes our heart stronger, which I think is amazing. It's a preventative for Alzheimer's disease. And here's the biggest one. It increases our lifespan. I think that's amazing. It increases what's called a telomere, which is a tail end of our DNA, by as much as 10% over the course of a 5-year period. And so, isn't it amazing that the very thing that we love to do, right, talking about fandom, is making us healthier? And more psychologists and also medical professionals are now starting to ask questions such as, do you have significant social interaction at least once a week? And I think that's where we're headed now, because we now start to recognize how important it is for a healthier and happier life.
We'll take that, all of the memes with like the Little Mermaid saying, "I want to be where the people aren't." That flies right in the face of that one. I had no idea about that. That's wild. I'd like to also sort of say to the fans watching right now, we'd love to hear questions from you. We want to make sure that you get resources, and that if you have questions, put them here in the chat here in the stream, and we love to chat with them. I see some coming in right now, so we'll start taking some of those. But yeah, so the future looks bright with all of us a little bit more connected in the same viral ways that like information can be shared in certain ways. Maybe we need to start flooding the channels with this positive, helpful, joyous community focus where we let people be themselves. I agree. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions already coming in now. Thank you. There's a lot. Okay, I'm gonna start with this one. L Walk Diva in the chat. How do I get my family to understand my fandom obsession? Who wants to take that? Who wants to take that? Christina, go.
You may not, and that's okay. They don't have to understand it as long as they can respect it. You having this outlet and this thing that brings you joy is not going to make sense to a lot of people. When I tell you, talking about comic books to people, randomly bringing up stuff, and I spiral and lore dump. I go deep on it. And actually, I met a little girl about 12 years old 2 weeks ago, and she says to me, I really love Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but I don't like the right Star Wars. And I said, well, what's the right Star Wars? And she's like, oh, well, like my brother says, like, you have to like this one. And I was like, but you don't. I was like, you can respect that your brother likes those, just like he can respect that you like this one. And it's not about it. If something brings you joy, that's okay. Like that right there is enough. Just say, hey, listen, I'm it's not a cult. It's not anything. I just am finding joy in this place. And I hope that you can understand that. I hope that you can understand. And you know what? I am 39 years old, and my parents still don't understand what I do or what I'm talking about half the time. And that's okay. I even married a dude. He doesn't know what I'm talking about half the time. I talk about Star Wars and he's like, what? My husband has like watched maybe half a Star Wars movie his entire life. Your things are for you. And sometimes that's enough. And if they don't understand it, as long as everybody keeps it respectful and not hurtful, that's okay.
I love it. I love it. Anybody else have any thoughts about that? Or I mean, Christina, that's a great advice.
I pretty much agree with Christina as well. It's being from the South, am in a part of the US that really loves their American football. And I have even tried to compare it to that with family members who are not, there is not a person in my family that's into sci-fi, fantasy, anything. I am the only one. But even in trying to compare it to other things, there's just still not it's like me trying to understand their obsession with American football. Like it's the same. I don't That's not for me. This isn't for them, but that's okay. That's why you seek out and you find people within fandom any other way that you can, so that you can just completely hyperfixate and nerd out with somebody on whatever you want to. It's just depending on where you are, maybe a little harder to find your people.
Yeah.
Stargate specifically as a fandom, that was a tricky one, but we found each other. We're doing well. But yeah, I agree, Christina. It's just you probably aren't going to in some ways, but as long as the respect's there, that's all
I
that
also
matters.
agree with you because football is just cosplay. You're
It
wearing
is.
a jersey, you're
It
wearing the
is.
costume, you're painting your face as if you were going down onto the field. You do a fantasy draft, you know every single
Uh,
stat, you know all of the lore of the team going back to the origins at every football. So let's just go ahead and call a thing a thing. Football, college football, professional football, it's all fandom.
It's all
my
fandom. It's all
my mind
fandom.
is blown right now. I
I've literally
wow.
told people cool
Wow.
cosplay when they've had a football jersey on before. I have, and they look at me like I've lost my mind. But
I
it's
love that.
100% true. That's cosplay.
100%
It's the
true.
first cosplay, right? Because
It's
this
yeah.
happened before the sci-fi cosplay. And the only thing I would like to add, because what Christina and Wells said is beautiful, is there is no should. There is no should. In life, it's rarely that there is a should. And when you have fun and you're happy, everyone can either join that and celebrate you for being happy, or there is the door.
Yeah, I agreed. Agreed. I mean, listen, I've been guilty of recruitment and proselytizing my favorite fandom stuff. Like, of course, I'm like getting in there and describing niche things to people, and they're just like their eyes are glazing over. I think what I'm hearing too is it's sort of like a pull, not push. Like let people enjoy the things that they love, share those things in ways that like are comfortable for you and that you don't have an expectation for everybody else. And yeah, I mean, it's yeah. The benefits far outweigh the costs. Janina, we have a question for you. Katie in the audience would love to hear more about superhero therapy, a little bit more about how it came to be and what it does or how it works.
Absolutely, yeah. So superhero therapy is a technique. It's not a standalone therapy. It's a technique that any mental health professional can incorporate into the type of therapy they're already providing. It's a way of helping individuals to find the vocabulary of what they've been through fandom. So, for example, I have my clients talk to me about maybe a particular episode that they relate to that shares their experience. And if I have not seen it, which is often the case, I invite my clients to bring in a clip of that episode, and we spend anywhere between 1 to 3, maybe even 5 sessions just talking about that fandom so that I can understand my client's perspective through that character. It's a way of bringing in a character as a role model for a client, right? As a heroic mentor, if you will, to help the client to practice self-compassion and to think about if that client was to then have not just that hero's guidance, but also to over time become their own version of a superhero in real life, how would they like to give back to other people who are maybe at the beginning of that experience, who maybe are also struggling with anxiety, depression, or trauma? It's something that I encourage a lot of clients to bring into their own therapy, right? In terms of it's okay to ask your therapist, hey, can I talk to you about this fandom because I feel like that will allow you to understand me. I have courses that are recorded that other mental health professionals can take to learn this technique, but really all they need to be is open-minded and curious. And so for any of you, if you're working with a therapist that you trust and you like, feel free to let them know about this and feel free to incorporate this into your work and bring in clips that you want to show your therapist and bring in language that you want to share because I imagine it might allow you to better express yourself and I imagine will help you to better bond with your mental health professional.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the number of people who are fans of this type of pop culture, it's a pretty general audience at this point. So of course, relativity within like therapy is always important. Like, do I know what I'm dealing with or how to deal with it? Is there some metaphor or some version of this that is understandable? Football metaphors for some people probably work too. So yeah,
Yes.
whatever works, whatever works. I have a question from Sal for you, Christina. Do you find yourself feeling a bit isolated ever when doing fandom as an occupation, like hosting and cosplay? Like, does that impact how you are as a fan? Like, do you forget to be a fan? Does it feel like how does that being in that in the fandom world impact your participation in fandom?
I think if I had gotten to do the things that made me feel seen as a child earlier, I might not appreciate them in the same way. But I think truly getting started in my fandom career in my late 20s and having that as kind of this, oh, not even my late 20s. I think I was in my 30s when I technically started. But it's been, I think it gets isolating sometimes when I kind of forget about the fact that I'm living my dream and I have to live in that, and the fact that I have created a lane for myself to do the things that I want to do, and I am forever grateful. And I think that that's the thing that keeps it from me from forgetting it. Like, I don't take it for granted. I don't take any of those things. Like, I try to look at every single full circle moment of like, where was I here? I like to look at my Time Hop app every single day. And I look at where was I a year ago? Where was I 2 years ago? Where was I 3 years ago? And if you told me when I was sitting on my couch in Columbus, Georgia, on Tumblr, scrolling through all this stuff, talking to my friend again about Supernatural, about Gish, about Doctor Who, about all these things, that I'd even be in like this Zoom call right now. I would not believe you. I would not be able to process that I would be on stage with the doctor, like with the doctor, with Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
I can never take this for granted because I could never dream that big, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something that is so powerful about these things that were a safe space as a child, things that were a safe space in like the darkest points of my life, to be able to now experience them, to share them with my kids, to talk about fandom, to use fandom to help other people, even in forums such as this. I can't help but be grateful because I know what it's like without it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just important to remember where we are and how far we've come. And that's like the true act of getting through these things, is just accept it and love it. And I this is something really important that I want to say. Please forgive me. So I, in 2010, went to a hospital for depression. And I remember sitting there and the shame that I sat with over it. I had lost my best friend, my grandmother. There was so much shame that I was carrying in myself. And like getting out, and it's like no matter how much people would make fun of it, like in my town, even saying the name of the hospital was so like people were embarrassed, or they would make fun of you, or they would see this. We cannot embarrass people for getting help. If that's fandom, if that's therapy, that step to make your brain better, that step to go to a doctor and say, I need help, I can't do this by myself, there's strength in that, and we need to honor and recognize that. It's okay to not be okay. This joy that I have, the joy that I go out into the world with, I worked hard for it because I worked hard to get out of that space. And it was fandom, it was friendships, it was finding community. Community is so important. And community without shame, community where we see each other, where we understand each other, where we hold each other dear, and we understand the saying, we all we got, is true. With whatever is going on in the world, we can practice joy. I'm not saying pretend your problems do not exist. I'm just saying that we need to understand that with each good day, you may have a bad day, and that is okay. Let people have that space to get help, be a support when they choose to get help, and understand that that's part of community, is understanding when other people need help and when to be that safe space for them. And that's how we destigmatize, by being that support, by being that anchor, even if it's for ourselves or for someone else.
1
100%.
million%,
Yeah.
Christina.
Can I add
Absolutely.
something to that? First of all, Christina, I'm so glad that you brought this up because this is absolutely the point. right? So thank you for saying that and also for sharing that. And, here's the thing, we're human beings. We're not meant to be droids or androids. That is not our job, right? So why is it that as human beings, we're constantly trying to turn off our feelings, right? I think most of us who watch Star Trek tend to find Data really endearing because he tries so hard to be human. But why do we try to tamp down what makes us human? It doesn't make sense. Even Superman needs to go to his fortress of solitude to recharge, right? Each and every one of us needs our own Justice League, right? We all need our own support systems, our own X-Men. And that is not a weakness, that's a strength. And I think that when we go to a mental health appointment, when we reach out to a friend, that is something for us to be proud of. And I hope that we see a day that we get gold stars for that. Like, I went to my therapist today, high five. Like, that is fantastic. So I hope we get to a point where we're all proud of that.
Agreed. Agreed. It's interesting too because out of fandom has come incredible movements around mental health and destigmatizing the getting help, right? I think of Jared Padalecki's Always Keep Fighting campaign. The fact that he decided to be open first to accept and get help, get the help, but then to speak about it and then carry that banner for 10 years this year, raising money, speaking about it. People come to him to his table and describe their journeys to him, and he holds that in very high esteem. He treats it very seriously, and I've seen him do it. It's and he always refers back to the person. They're doing the work. You guys are doing the work. When you say, "Hey, I need help," and you take that on, that's the strongest thing you can do, is to acknowledge and then do that work. And you know that you're not alone. It's a powerful thing. And one more, we'll do one more quick question before we end off here. This is for Wells actually, and this is actually something that could go for anybody in any fandom. But I love this question because it's so this. So Bill asks, okay, huge Stargate fan here. What episodes have you found to be the most meaningful to you that you revisit when you need a real mental health break?
That's two different questions to me,
It is.
honestly. So I'll hit you with the real mental health break one first, and I think it's probably no surprise to anyone who knows Stargate, but Window of Opportunity is probably my go-to. It's the Groundhog Day episode for anybody that doesn't know Stargate, but it is also where my podcast name comes from, Three Fries Short of a Happy Meal. O'Neill says that in the episode. So definitely Window of Opportunity or 200. There's so much wonderful comedy in Stargate that really it's just joyful to watch. But I would say the ones that I find the most meaning in these days are probably anything that have to do with the Tok'ra, which if you, again, they're the good guy go old people in the show if you don't know Stargate. But twofold the Tok'ra are have a lot of meaning for me personally. Number one, as a non-binary person, they constantly are potentially switching between male, female, this, that. So it's very much similar in Star Trek when you talk about Dax or, the Trill in Star Trek. It's that kind of vibe, but with Stargate, they're the Tok'ra. And also the idea of having a voice in your head that maybe doesn't align with how you are. Christina, you said 2010 was your depression moment. In 2008, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So the idea that you have this other voice going on and these conflicts within your head and your emotions and strong emotions and where you're supposed to emotions covering up other emotions. This is a concept that the Trill or the Tok'ra, whatever fandom you're in with a symbiotic relationship character, is incredibly meaningful to me, twofold basically.
Yeah. And I'd love to put it to everybody else too. What's the rewatch? Like what do you put on? It takes you from the moment and lets you have a break, or it brings you back into a space of joy. What are all of you, the rest of you, watching?
Star
Whether it's
Wars. Star
Wars.
Wars every Christmas,
Yeah.
any reason, Princess Bride, any reason. Oh, it's on the TV. It's 45 minutes in, but we're gonna watch whatever is left. It's rewatching favorite things brings so much joy. It's comfort. It's like eating a cookie without getting the pounds. It's just so much fun. highly recommend if you have a time to practice that, especially when you can get some friends over and maybe they never seen it. That's bonus.
Yeah, big bonus.
Yeah.
Janina, what's your go-to?
Yeah, so for me, it's also Star Wars, usually either Star Wars Rebels or now also Andor, which I think is
Oh,
amazing. And then also Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
yeah, totally. Christina, what do we got?
Well, outside, this is my other fandom that I've not quite talked about as much. I like to watch Vanderpump Rules and The Real Housewives. But I'd really, so, but there's a moment on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, there's a season and they do a sit down and there's a moment where one of the girls, Sheena Shea, she gets up and she walks from the table after a confrontation directly into the kitchen, through the kitchen door, directly into the first episode of Vanderpump Rules. It is one of the greatest backdoor pilot entries I have ever seen in my entire life. It is a beautiful moment, and to see her just walk through that door and the next thing you know, we're in a confessional and we're in a kitchen and everything is popping. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant, you sat there one day and you're like, we should have a TV show. And that television show gave you the show that we all dreamed about while we were serving tables. And it gave us 11 seasons of fantastic stuff and now a spinoff in the Valley. So I think it's very important for me to watch that. But also, if I really need to cry, I watch the Doctor Who Doomsday episode.
Oh my God. Yep. Yep. No doubt. No. I can't
No,
even-
you
don't
went
even- I
there.
don't
You
even-
went
stop
there.
it, stop
Oh
it.
no.
We actually have time for one more question, so I'm gonna pose this one to SG from Bella. Do you find yourself reading other sci-fi fantasy books for escape and mental health improvement?
Absolutely. Asimov is my go-to. I
Yes.
love I'm blanking the name. Ilona Andrews, Patricia Briggs. Oh my gosh, Ilona Andrews, I probably read her books, every single book she has, 5 times, if not more. Same with Patricia Briggs. I always go back. She has a new book out. Let's start from book 1. Yes, but that's book 13. That's okay. You still start with book 1. I love rereading these books because these characters are my friends. I can relate to them. I watch them struggle, which helps me with my struggles. I wonder what they're doing. What are they doing now? They're book characters, but what are they doing now? I want to know.
Amazing. Absolutely. But as we wrap up here, I just want to loop back and finish with you, Dr. Janina. You spent years, of study in fandom and mental health, and as well as trained. It's like something like over 20,000 mental health professionals. What is the biggest takeaway you'd like the audience, and actually selfishly for me, obviously, because this is all about me right now. What do you want people to know? Like, what do we walk away with here?
So, for any mental health professionals out there, I want to say that you don't have to know anything about pop culture to do this work. Just ask your clients to share what's most meaningful to them. For whether you're a mental health professional or not, I just want you all to know that if you're going through something, chances are people around you are going through the same thing. And so, a lot of times, just by sharing something that you've been through, you're already making a difference because you're giving people an opportunity to share. And finally, what I want to bring up is that most of us will never know how much of an impact we actually make in other people's lives. Chances are there's somebody who is alive out there because of something kind that you did or said, and they might not think to tell you this. So I wanted to tell you this. I wanted to remind each and every one of you that you make more of a difference than you can possibly realize. So please remember that. Please remember how incredible you are, and don't forget your cape. Thank you.
No, beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, I think that does it for us today. Dr. Janina, thank you. Wells Davis, thank you. SG
Thank you.
Blaise, thank you. Krystina Arielle, thank you. This has been great. So many great takeaways, and I'm just proud to be in Fandoms alongside you folks. So thank you very much. And yeah, go find those resources. We're going to put up some cards too here at the end with some resources and a little bit more information about our guests. And please avail yourself of these resources. Don't stay quiet. You're not alone. Use the resources. We're here with you, standing side by side, whether it's on Endor or it's here or we're going through a Stargate portal. Whatever it is, we're right there with you. So we're going to put those up now. So thanks so much.